What's going on, pursuers? Welcome to the Pursuit of Calling podcast, where my goal and purpose is to provide you with the tools you need to successfully discover and pursue your God-given calling. In this episode, we're talking about how to discover your purpose. I dive a lot into the Discover Your Calling planning guide, so you can go ahead and download that right now at pursuitofcalling.com. All right, I'll see you guys in there. How's it going, pursuers? So in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to discover your calling. Now, last episode we talked about what purpose or what calling even is. We talked about the bees and how they have a purpose on their lives, and they will fulfill their purpose to the extent they'll work themselves to death to fulfill their purpose. And unlike the honeybee, our purpose isn't this pre-programmed a set of instructions like the honeybees have. We each individually have our own set of we each individually have our own purpose and calling on our lives, and we don't know what that is right out of the womb. We don't know what that is whenever we get old enough. We have to discover it for ourselves. And again, I believe that this is a calling from God. Like I talk about on this podcast a lot. My calling is to provide people with the tools they need to successfully discover and pursue their God-given calling. That's just a phrasing I kind of use for that. But I want you, as we go through and after this episode, and I'll write down in my notes to reference that again. So I'm going to ask you guys what. I was write down that. And what phrasing can you use to really put some body to your calling, so that whenever you're in every situation, you can think, does this align with my calling? Or how can this align with my calling even? So, in what ways? So then I don't know if I said it already, but I'm going to be referring to the Discover Your Calling planning guide a lot in this episode. And you guys might already have it. If you don't, you can go to pursuitofcalling.com and go ahead and download your own right now so you can follow along with what I'm talking about. And you have to go to pursuitofcalling.com. Right on the homepage, there's a quick little form, fill it out, and it gets written in your inbox like instantly. So that's pretty cool. So go ahead and get that. You can pause it, come back, but let's dive in. So we're going to go through, there's a few different sections in this guide. There's discover what drives you, your strengths assessment, your purpose reflection, values in action, and practical steps. So I'm not going to go through every question because, like I said, you're going to have to get the planning guide to go ahead and fill out yourself. And I want to keep this episode short for you guys. But I want to go a little bit out of each section so you guys can get a taste, even if you don't download the guide, even though you should. So let's dive into the discover what drives you section, the first section. So there's this last question here. It says, if time, money, or other limitations were an issue, what would you commit to wholeheartedly? That's reflection. That is a time of reflection. Like if time, money, or limitations, or any other limitations weren't an issue, what would you commit to wholeheartedly? So, have you ever thought of a nonprofit idea, or if there was something that you love to do, but you don't know how to make it into a income per se, what would those things be? Maybe you like to bake, but you don't see how that could become a thriving business and really live in that calling. Now, of course, your calling goes with you wherever you go, but I don't want to get sucked into the whole that your calling is only a career or a business. However, that is a great way to live it out, but that's going to be in the next episode. But if none of these things, you don't have any restrictions, there's no restrictions, and there's never will be, what would you do for the rest of your life? What would you commit to wholeheartedly? And now that's not going to tell you your calling, but that's going to give you a hint. right? Because then you can dive into why, right? Why is that? Why would I do that wholeheartedly? What pieces of that do I enjoy? So let's get into the strengths assessment. So I remember, if you remember on John Stonge's episode, one of the questions he said to ask yourself is to help you discover your calling is, what are the things that other people say that I'm good at? I'm going to say it again. What are the things that my friends, people that are close to me, what are they saying I'm good at? What are they saying you're good at? So you can write down, there's either skills, there's activities, and or maybe you just easily, these things that you just think you intuitively understand. They could be how you relate to others, how you communicate, how maybe it is a skill. Maybe you're really good at sports, like my roommate Silas. It can pick up any sport at any time and just be great at it for whatever reason. And that's just, I believe that's part of who he is, part of his calling. And that's just, neither here nor there, though. Just think about those things that you have on your life. Think about those things that people say you're good at. That's a hint. That's a massive hint to what you can live, how you can live in your calling. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, to help you live in your calling. It's not just the pursuit, but also living in it fully. So, and Next, after that, we have list examples of how you've used these strengths in various areas of life. So this ties in with the previous question. What are the things that they said that you're good at, and what areas of life are you using those skills or activities? I'm going to even add to it. This is a bonus for you. List areas where you could be adding these skills. Maybe you don't use these skills, you don't use these strengths in your career at your job, and you could be, and would make it more enjoyable. What are those things? How could you do that? How can your strengths and talents contribute to making a positive impact on others? There is no negative thing about a calling. So if there's any piece of you as you're on your discovery journey that is telling you that when you're starting to get closer to achieving your calling, or not even, I shouldn't say achieving, but to discovering your calling, you never achieve your calling. You how can this, I'm going to say, if you're ever hearing anything negative, that's the enemy. When I say the enemy, I mean the devil. And that's my personal belief. Or maybe you can say it's just these negative thoughts, or maybe it's negative people that are telling you that you shouldn't be living in this part of your life. It's maybe they don't see what you see out of the thing, and they don't feel the things you feel whenever you do certain things. So yeah, I just want to tell you, there's nothing negative about calling, nothing negative about purpose. So at any point, any time you're starting to feel that, start to question it. Start to question the negative thoughts, because I just wanted to point that out. But how can you make use of that to make a positive impact on others? Your calling's not just for you; it's for everybody around you. So how can these things be used to positively influence those around you? And that might be easy because of the answers you've given previously, but maybe it's not. So maybe you actually have to think about this a little bit more intuitively. Let's jump into the next section. Purpose reflection. Reflect on a time when you felt deeply fulfilled or had a sense of purpose. What were you doing during that time? So you notice a lot of these things talk about things that you're doing. And I'm going to keep repeating that your calling isn't something that you do. Your calling is something that you live. And this is just identifying these things that where your calling shined. So reflect on a time when you felt deeply fulfilled or had a sense of purpose. And then you can look at why you had that sense of purpose. Why did you feel, let me give you an example. So whenever I told you this before, whenever I first read or heard about Nick and McKean ethics, just about understanding how people think and getting to know that more. That sparked my interest more than anything in a really long time. I didn't really know why. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. And now looking back on it, and now that I've actually finished that book, and it was interesting the whole way through, I realize the reason that sparked my interest is because I just find people interesting, and I find people interesting in this way to wanting to understand why people do the things that they do. Why do people think the way that they think? Because I want people to live in their calling. I want people to live in the purpose that God has for their lives. And so, because it's not just why do people do the good things that they do, it's like, why do people do the bad things that they do? Why do people do things that actually hurt them? Those are like, for me, that's where my purpose resides. And that's why I found that particular thing interesting. Other people read that book for a completely different reason. I don't know what those reasons are, but like that could align with that person's purpose. So why do you do, so like we said, purpose is the why behind all the things that you do, right? It's the why behind why you find something interesting. It's why you feel fulfilled when you do certain things, like we were mentioning. So, reflect on a time when you felt deeply fulfilled. What were you doing? Why was it fulfilling? Let's jump into the next section, values in action. So list 3 core values that you hold. Maybe this is easy. Maybe you're a Christian like me, and your values are rooted in Christ. And you can just think of, okay, well, my values rooted in Christ is to love. For me, is love others, serve. Love others, serve. I just off the top of my head. Love others, serve, and always pursue my calling. Those are my values. Is to always look for ways to pursue my calling. And I believe all those kind of things fall into each other. It's love others, serve others, and find ways to pursue my calling in a more excellent manner. These are your values. If you don't understand what that, if you're not sure what that means, it's just aspects of your life that you value above all else. So it could be, I value my friend. I value my values fall into my friend, maybe in your friendships above all else. And that can and why did it fall into your friendships? Maybe because you love maybe because you value having other people close to you. And then you have to maybe dive even deeper into that. Why you value having people close to you. There's a whole thing you can do, but you write down your 3 values, the way you would interpret them on there. And then the next question after that is reflect on how these values influence your decisions, how they can help you, how they can guide you toward your life's calling. So it's going back all the way to all the other questions and being like, and telling you why you value these things. Why do you value these things? Why do you get fulfillment from the things that you do? When you do the things that you find fulfillment from, they're going to tie back to your values, and all this stuff together is mixed into the pot. It's going to come out with your calling. And then practical steps finally is identify 3 simple steps you can complete in the next 7 days to bring you closer to your calling. With 3 practical steps, I'm going to give you one right now. Fill out this guide. Re-listen to this episode and write down, maybe it's get better at time, not just get better at time management, but create a to-do list. It's starting to dive in, creating a to-do list of the things that you can do to maybe do more of the things that you love to do, more of the things that you feel fulfilled at. Maybe it's starting to figure out how you can get paid to actually live in your calling. That actually sounds really exciting, right? So, sorry, I got a little bit of a cough now. My throat's getting a little dry. But yeah, identify 3 simple steps you can complete in the next 7 days to bring you closer to your calling. I'm going to leave you with that. And finally, I'm going to go back and say, what phrase can you apply to your calling to give it some body? Like mine, providing people with the tools they need to successfully discover and pursue their God-given calling. What phrase can you add to your calling so that want something that goes with you wherever you go? I'm going to leave you with that, pursuers. All right. If you really like this episode, give it a 5-star review. Review this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share it on Instagram, X, Facebook, all your social media platforms. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify. Super helpful. Don't forget to follow on Apple Podcasts. Super helpful. And guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.